see if I've set everything up right. It feels like the window is blocking a lot. I'm going to try putting that in the lower left and make it a little bit smaller. Oh, and I need to open up the comments so we can see comments. Uh, all right. I think that's everybody. No worries. Uh, we need help. Is that what we're learning? Um, the okay, so I have the video on. Is anyone familiar enough with Twitch to know how to not show the video but still see the chat stream? You can just pause it. That's all right. Okay. I is everybody logged in on AnyDesk? Interrupted. I will. I wasn't. Okay. So usually, if you go to the remote part and put in the full string, it won't ask you for that. All right. Are we? Yeah. Yes. Although in general, we're going to have a touch the mouse as little as possible policy. Um, okay. So first of all, hello everybody. Welcome to our first experiment doing this. I forget exactly why we decided to do this. Do you remember that, Jay? Yeah, so when we first started experimenting with this, like the question that is always on the mind is like, is anybody ever watching this? But well, I mean, we were fortunate enough to have Pamela Gay, who's quite experienced in Twitch, like get us through like the setup and stuff, which took like 2 hours or so. But after that, the overhead of turning on Twitch and doing our pairing sessions is less than 5 minutes, right? And so like we get almost all of it for free. Like we don't have to act differently. Like it's just all of this is effectively already happening because we're pairing. And so we're like, well, you know, if one person watches for like 10 minutes, like we're okay. Um, and and we're not sure if that will be true with mobbing or not, but we thought it would be interesting to find out. This is my like second remote mob with like strangers, right? So we will see how that goes as well. I've done though a lot of mobbing with strangers in person and a lot of like sustained mobbing, even sustained remote mobbing. As such, I'm going to borrow from my knowledge of what I do when I'm pairing with strangers remotely, anyways. And for this session, we're going to start with me just facilitating as opposed to joining in the programming. The other thing we wanted to experiment with this, a lot of times when I'm doing remote mobbing, uh, we don't pass the keyboard as much. Like if we are in person, we're always passing the keyboard. But if we are remote, sometimes we'll have a dedicated driver. We wanted to play today with passing the keyboard as well. And so we have a little bit of experience with AnyDesk, and we're going to try that out and see how that goes. And it looks like some other things here from Jay. Oh, you want to give some history on what we're doing and why? Yeah.
To cast it to be another type as a kind of object that fits into this stream. So that's what we wanted to play with today. That's pretty abstract, and I think we need a little bit of concrete example to make it more visible, or we need to just jump in and hope that it'll come clear as we go.
All right. Um, yeah, and so one of the things that's nice about this mob is we're actually working on a project that we care about, as opposed to just a exercise or kata. Um, that has some disadvantages as well, but we'll figure that out as we go. One quick question. So I use the Dvorak keyboard layout, and we discovered some interesting quirks with that in AnyDesk. Is anybody using a software mapped keyboard? Where the physical keys on their keyboard and the keys they type are not the same. So Dvorak would be one place, but I mean also could we have people from Germany and Netherlands? It's possible that you are mapping to like your native language keyboard from a different keyboard or something like that. Okay. Then we shouldn't have a problem. If just keep an eye out. If for some reason your modifier keys are doing weird things, ask me because that is the way it showed up with Dvorak. Okay. Let's set up the timer and jump right in. Does that sound like the right thing to do, Jay?
We should check if people know how to mop.
That's an excellent point. So one of the things that is quite useful to do in mobbing in general is have a document where we can sort of just write. Should I just open up a Google Doc?
Sure.
Okay. A quick just show of hands. How many people have at least two monitors? Okay, so 3 of us, 4 of us. Docs.google.com. So I'm just opening a Google Doc here. Live mob. And no, yeah. And share it with everybody. They have changed the sharing window. Huh. Okay. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to Zoom chat that to you. If I can. There we go. All right. There you go. There should be a Google Doc. Let's also open that up here. So we can just share things here. Let's start. Well, that's interesting. Oh, okay, it's just my screen size. Start with just put your name down there. And then under your name, let's do location, mobbing, hearing, experience.
I had to request edit access.
Did you?
Same here.
All right.
Yeah.
Editors can, okay. Do that. Change. Try now. Oh, you might have to reload the page. And okay. So a little bit of mobbing from Valentine, uh, quite a lot from Christian. So I assume that's because of quarantine being kicking remote work into a whole bunch of
Being an
different places.
enabler for mobbing, yes.
Yeah, enabler, yes. Uh, Eric. Oh, nice. That's for our intermediate. Um, nice, Tony. So is it because of the quarantine as well, or have you been mobbing at work before this?
We kind of mopping like before quarantine. We mopping at work, and then we at work we often doing mopping and pair programming. Even work from home and remotely, also doing remotely mopping and pair programming. And
Nice.
also because I organize a code retreat, so we also doing mopping and pair programming on the kind of like on the how to say on the Kala sessions with the group as well. So yeah.
Nice. All right. Ogla should be here in a second as well. I'm not seeing my mouse when it's over the screen. All right. Okay, so let's set up the mob timer so we can actually start. By the way, so there's a concept I talk about a lot in programming called 0 to 1. I just want to mention it because we're experiencing it right now, which is the first time you ever do anything, it doesn't matter what it is, when you move from doing 0 of it to 1 of it, it just takes almost as much time to do that as it does to go from 1 to 10. When you move. So I want to point it out because, like, we're like a half hour in yet, and we haven't yet started. But this is normal for 0 to 1. Right? This is normal this is the first time, like, we're doing the mob, the first time we're using any desk, the first time that we're doing any of this. All right. 1 minute is going to be a little fast. Let's turn that to 3 minutes. All right, and so there's going to be two really important things that the timer is taking track of. The first is going to be the person at the keyboard. When it says turn, that means you're typing. And the second thing is going to be the person who's navigating. And we're going to start with a dedicated navigator. And because this project is basically new to everyone except for Jay, I'm going to have Jay be our first navigator. So yeah, if we say start right now, does it say Christian's turn? Like, hit the start button. Okay, and Jay's up next. Put that window back on and pause it for a second. So the way you're going to do that, so it's Christian who's actually driving at the moment. Click on the window there, yep. And then hit the pause button, which is really hard to see. It is actually right next to the play button. Here, let me try this for a second.
Just wipe your face. It might just be sunscreen if you've been using
Right there.
moisturizer.
If you highlight over it, you can kind of see it. I don't know why that's rendering weird. Anyhow, so this is our mob timer. You can see right in the middle it says Christian's turn, so that means Christian's going to be typing. The rule, of course, is no thinking at the keyboard. Jay will be doing the thinking. You can see his name in the little double arrows down there. There is supposed to be a beep when this occurs, but I don't think we have that working so that the sound is actually occurring on the virtual machine and transferring to our computer. other than that, I think let's start getting into it. Jay, you want to take it away?
Sure, go for it. All right, so let's. I see the to-do item. Let's change the dash to a star on line 1 so that we can tell everybody this is the thing that we're working on. And then it says to see pipeline test process is not covariant. So let's go look at that. I think I would do that by hitting Control T, typing process is not covariant. So here's an example that.
Quick covariance. So the co and contravariance is related to generics and sort of how the inheritance works. You want to give us a quick, better explanation than I just did?
No, I want to let it. I want to wait till it matters.
You want to wait till it matters. That's fair enough. All right.
Yeah. But the thing that I'm noticing here is that on 61, there's a cast. So there's an input array, and it is all the items are being casted on 61, and I would like to address that. So let's duplicate this test.
So when you say not need this, do you mean we wish that line was not there, or do you wish that we had an alternative way of saying it?
I don't think I know yet. I think we have to figure that out. But my first guess is that instead of dot process enumerable of int, we write dot cast to some type. I think int.
Yeah. So that's like an alternative way.
So I'm having odd.
Yeah.
It seems like
You're having what?
odd key mappings. So jumping to the first line in a first position in a line seems not to work. But
so a couple quick questions so we can resolve the any of this. Are you on a Mac or are you on a PC?
I'm on a Mac.
Okay, so you're going to have to pay attention. Your control buttons and your command buttons are going to map directly. So your command's going to become a window key, and your control and option will be control and alt. So that's the first part. The second part is where are you? You're in Munich. It is possible that there is software mapping on top of this that will become problematic.
So I have copy paste working, so every IT related thing will be fine.
Okay.
All right. I don't know what to call this yet, so just like put a 2 at the end. Like the thing that I really want to write is I want line 73 to look different, and then we'll clean up the rest to make it make sense after we know what 73 should look like.
Sorry.
And that's our timer.
All right, so that is our timer. So let's see what happens on a rotation. This is pretty quick, so it's possible I will pop Jay out and keep him as navigator, but let's see what happens. Eric, let's see if you can continue with this. We'll test our knowledge. You're on mute.
I am on mute. Okay, so I'm still trying to figure out. So last I remember, we were talking about changing that enumerable. I'm not sure why it went. And this is a little bit past my understanding of I believe this is C#. So
Sure.
I'm having a little bit of trouble already.
All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep Jay as navigator, and I'm going to swap Eric into driver.
Okay, that makes sense.
All right. So let's go a little bit farther and see if we can rotate the next time.
Okay.
But Eric, let's have you switch over to the mob timer and click next so that you become.
Okay, let's see. There's the mob. There we are. And so then that should go like that. Okay.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So 73 is what we're going to modify, and I'm kind of guessing what it should look like. Let's replace the whole line with dot cast.
Okay. Cast.
And then
capital or lowercase?
Capital, please.
Capital.
Okay.
C# standards.
Gotcha. And you said open bracket?
Angle brackets.
Angle brackets. Okay.
And then here, I think we're going to write enumerable of int. but maybe we end up writing int. I'm not sure yet.
Okay, well, we'll try enumerable int to start. Is that a
With a little
lowercase
I.
int then? There
Yes,
we go.
please.
Okay.
And then a pair of parens.
Okay.
So I think that's the syntax we want. Let me think about this a little bit more. We've got an input pipe that is a single integer, and then it's going to process that to range array. Range array? Will you show us what range array is?
Okay.
72.
So
That takes an int and returns a collection. So I don't know if we can cast the entire collection.
yeah, I mean, as we see in the error, we're seeing that it doesn't contain a definition for cast.
Which we're going to create in a moment. I'm just trying to, based on the little data I have, guess whether 73 should be cast to int or cast to enumerable int.
Let's start with just a quick read line of what the previous method we copied does, just to get everyone on the same page for that.
Okay.
So Jay, starting 59.
59, yeah. So input, so we're creating a pipeline, a series of objects that are joined together to carry out some computations. And the first object in that is an input pipe, which can be fed an input value that we're calling I. And then it says dot process function range array. So that means whatever gets fed into the input pipe will have range array applied to it. So range array is some other function that is defined here in our test. And I think what it does is, given an integer I, gives you back an array that goes from 0 to I, or something like that. And then it says dot process. So go ahead. Was there a question?
Control click onto range array.
Go for it. Yep. So enumerable.range says give us an array from 1 to count, and then we're converting that to an array. Cool.
So let's go back. Control minus should take you back.
Oh, control minus does. Oh.
Nice. All right. So continuing from 60. So given now an array that goes.
The timer is flashing.
Oh.
Yep. But hold on. Don't advance the timer yet, since we're just talking anyways.
Okay. So given an array from 0 count of I, the next step, cast that array to an enumerable int. And then on line 62, it takes that enumerable int and it's processing over that with some enumerable. So let's go look some enumerable. So that, given an enumerable of int, you can call .sum on it, which is a built-in function that will sum all the elements. Let's go back. And then we will collect. Go ahead.
All right, so I believe the issue that we're looking at, so again, going to co and contravariance, is if we go down to the bottom to our range array.
Okay. Range array, yes.
And instead of returning an int array, if we return an enumerable of int, so on 83.
Right. So am I changing that, or are we?
We're going to change it just to test.
Okay. So then maybe if that's going to be, we should move to the next person, since we're changing.
That's a good point. Thank you. Can we check the timer?
Okay. Come on. Why is that? Okay. Come on. There we are.
I think if anybody moves their mouse near the AnyDesk, it creates some chaos. So be careful, I guess.
Okay.
We'll see if being careful helps.
I'm away. Now somebody can.
Christian, you're the only one mousing at the moment.
No, I think it created another timer. Is the one
above? We've created two. That's a good point. Because it should be Eshrod's turn. So, Eshrod. And you're on mute.
Close the gray one because that's on first pair moving.
Jay, wouldn't it be a good idea to close the other timer?
It would be good to close the other timer.
So yeah, so I can start. Is it Christian or me?
It's you are going to be driving. We're going to hold me as
Okay.
a navigator at the moment until.
Sure. Should I close this mob timer? This
Yeah,
duplicate
close
one? Yeah. Okay. Right.
All right. So on the range array, actually, clone that method, the whole method.
Okay. So is it a Control D or what is it?
Control D should duplicate it.
Okay.
And then let's call it range array 2. And let's make that be an return instead of an int array, an IEnumerable of int.
I have a question about the mobbing. So, are you the navigator now?
I'm the navigator for until this problem is actually defined. Yeah.
Okay.
And put int in there. And then in processes not covariant 2, delete line 73.
Yes, where is that line number? 73 or yeah. Delete
that.
Yeah, it's Control Y or
Control L will delete the line.
Okay.
And then instead of using range array on 72, use range array 2. And I believe that should work. Let's test it and see if it works. So Jay, the idea is we want it to work like this without having to write this, right?
I'm not sure. Because you don't have a dot cast in here.
We don't have a dot cast.
So is it?
One of the things that we noticed was that once we had process function, we could do all kinds of powerful stuff, but sometimes we wanted to name that stuff. And so we wrote dot for each and other things that are effectively process function with a special input and a name. And I feel like dot cast is another example of that. Does that make sense, Llewellyn?
Possibly, yeah. But so here, so this function is working, right?
Mm-hmm.
We want to not have to write the IEnumerable on 83. Right? We want to be able to use range array instead of range array 2. And then the question is, do we want to make it so you don't have to write anything at all and it just works? Or do we want to make it so that you have to do a cast?
Let's see if we can make it work without a cast. Because it's been a while since we ran into that problem. I don't remember why we felt that was important. But let's find out.
Okay. So
before that, I have a thing. So can I see the test failing? So can I see with the original range array, if you don't do a cast, what happens? Is it a compilation error?
Sure. On line 72, can you take out the 2? 72.
Okay.
And let's rotate one more time.
Or test with this.
And I think we now have enough information as a group to move into regular driver navigator. Does that show of hands? Are people feeling like we at least understand sort of what the problem is? If not, how to solve it? All right. All right, that's not overwhelming, but it's enough to try. So Robert, you're going to try navigating Tony. And continue on with Valentine's idea of let's see the failure and go like that.
Yep. Okay, so let's run the test. Not sure if SR just did that.
How do I run the test? Control Shift F10 or actually just run this?
That's a problem. Yeah.
That is not the right way to do that.
Okay.
Hit any key there.
Sure.
Over on line 69, there's a green check sort of in the gutter.
Yes.
Yeah, click there and run
Oh,
it.
okay.
Okay, thanks. There we go.
Okay, so it passed, and actually we expected it to fail.
We did expect that to fail. Jay?
Yeah, so we may not have articulated the problem correctly. So we
my
need to find a
things-
failing test.
Yeah, so I was expecting this actually to pass. So I'm a little confused about the covariant and contravariant part.
By the way, parallel runs is an inconsistent test. We don't know how to make it consistent yet. We thought about doing that, but we're like, this is a problem that's been like inconsistently haunting us for over 2 months. So we didn't think starting with a mob is a good way to start with the hardest thing we've done. Just so you're aware, that will pass and fail intermittently.
Just a suggestion, is it possible to ignore it for now so it doesn't?
That's a great idea. Let's do that.
What happened?
So how do we do that?
Okay, so how do I get to the parallel test and ignore it?
If you go back
if
to
you
the
go to
unit
the
test,
Sorry,
Go ahead,
can you
Jay.
say that again?
So Jay, you were saying what?
if you go to the unit test sessions window, the first tab, you can probably right-click on the test and say ignore. At least I hope you can.
Okay, thanks. So
Sorry, I forgot that Jay is not the navigator anymore.
nope, we're going to try standard pairing. It's taken us like 4 rotations, which is almost 12 minutes to get a group together. Longer than I prefer, but still good by normal standards.
I
Yeah.
think is this
Go
one
back
the
to
one
that
we want?
view.
Sure.
Right-click on it
right-click
again
on-
and choose remove. Remove
Choose
selected
remove.
tests
Oh,
with the red
remove
X. Yeah,
Okay.
so that'll just remove it from this collection. It's enough for our purposes.
Oh, okay, I see. Thanks. So do I
Alright.
want to run the test again now? Or?
No, I think we need to go find a failing test at this point.
Was that the other test? There was a small indicator.
Yeah, our timer. So let's do another rotate.
Sure.
Will be my turn then.
So Robert with Valentine.
So I'm the navigator and Robert is the driver.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so let's go back to the original test.
It's Control minus.
Yeah, I think so.
I have the impression that, oh yeah, here it is. Yeah.
So now I have to, as the navigator, I have to ask the others, or actually the project owners, what was the problem? Because I don't fully understand.
Yeah, at some point in the past, we thought we had a problem here, and now we are not seeing that problem. So we're going to have to either use some imagination to discover a new one or go somewhere else. I think part of what we can do is remove 61 because we think that that will pass. But there's some other failing test in my imagination that we're trying to write at 69 that I can't quite remember. But it has something to do with code contravariance and how you cast stuff.
So let's start by deleting that. I feel like we have done that in the second one, but let's delete it here anyways.
Okay,
Yeah.
so Robert, delete that line.
That will produce the same test as the one below.
I believe that is the case.
Okay. And rerun the test. Yeah. And I think pending. Oh, it takes a while. Shouldn't you use like ncrunch or live testing in ReSharper?
Yes. So the answer is we usually use ncrunch, but we couldn't figure out how to install it properly on this version of server, and
That's
so
fine.
we're not.
Okay. So let's go back to the test. So
Jay,
what should we do now?
I feel like possibly we've solved this and not realized it. Take
Yeah,
it off the
I think
to-do
there's
list.
a related problem that that's still worth looking at today, which is the need to cast stuff. Not just about co-and-contravariance, but casting is an operation that people will want. And so I want to try to write a test case for that and cast something to something else.
Okay. Let's do some cleanup first. Let's delete the second test that's similar. So
Okay.
delete the process is not covariant too.
So, Jay,
Mhm.
if we were to sketch out, can we go to the Google Docs for a second?
Okay, so I think the timer is up. Okay.
Pause the timer until we have a sketch. Go to the Google Doc. So
Lowell, or one question, Lowell and Jay. So in real mobs, when we are doing some sort of this brainstorming or design thinking, so typically good practice is stop the mob, timer, get into whiteboarding and get that thing all sorted out.
yeah,
And
there needs to be like some common goal at least for us to be able to move, right? Because right now there's just not. Go to the bottom of the page. And yeah, let's make some white space. And so the situation that you're talking about in a casting, right, is that you have an A base class. So it's A, which is being extended by B and C. And now, what is the situation? What is the casting that we're trying to look at?
That seems like a downcast. So if you have class A that implements B, and then you've got
You think you have an array of A, but you actually have an array of B, and you want to cast it down.
I think I have an actual array of B, but I know that it contains A's. So A defines F.
Okay, yeah.
I've got some B's, and I want to say for each, I want to say B's dot for each. So normally, I think what I do is cast like that.
Okay. So just to make this a little more concrete, let's use our base class is animal and our higher class is dog. And so we have an array of animals that we're casting to dogs. And then what's a property of a dog? Bark. Yeah. And then we are going to call bark on it. It'd be slightly nice if it was less of a side effect property and more of a attribute. He's a good boy. There we go. Okay. So does this scenario make sense to everyone here? Just sort of thumbs up, down, sideways. All right. So Valentine, we're gonna or were you typing last or?
No, I should type now and.
Right. So Valentine and
Olga is the navigator.
Navigator. Write us a test, Olga.
So Olga,
you're on mute.
Do you hear me? Yes.
Yes.
Right. Hello, everybody. So we have to write a test, right?
Yep.
Can we? So if I understand well now, we have the instead of the casting to process. I think I haven't really got into that.
So start by writing me a test.
Just new test, right?
Mm-hmm.
Go with. Yeah, let's go to the line 60 line and wait, and let's call it So we need to have the similar one, or
Give me a name for this test.
like let's go with the full for the beginning.
Okay.
Okay.
And then in English, so just as comments, what's the first thing we're doing in the test?
So we want to have the input, right?
Mm-hmm.
The pipe. Okay, so let's
An input
set
of
an
what?
input. Can you repeat that one?
Input of what?
Input of I, let's say.
No. Look at the Google Doc for a second.
Of sorry, of animal. Right?
Good. Yes.
Okay.
And then next.
Okay. And
then what do we want to do?
Then we want to also to
look at the doc again.
Can we open the doc? Let me see. Okay. So we want to go through. Is it? So.
We have an animal, but we know that the animal is actually a dog.
Yeah. Okay, so we want to have a variable which will be a dog.
We want to cast it to the dog.
Yeah, we want to cast to the dog.
So what should
So let's say
cast to a dog.
Cast to the dog.
And then what do we want to do with the dog?
So here we want to check if the dog is a good boy.
Yes.
So let's
check. Literally write that.
Yeah, check if the dog is a good boy.
Can you repeat that, please?
Check if the dog is a good boy.
Yeah. All right. So start with translating line 70.
Okay, so on the line, new line. No, you can leave. You can leave the comments. Control set. Yeah.
Okay. So.
New variable, and we can call it input. New input pipe of. So here we can we say now, because we don't have the animal class, do we want to go with that?
Pretend you do.
Pretend we do. Okay, so we have an animal, and let's call the label animal inside. Okay.
Should I create a class for animal, like auto-generate?
Yeah, let's go with that.
What's the shortcut for?
Try Alt Enter. Yeah. Okay. Let's go. Control minus should take back to the. So to the line between 72 and 73. Let's have a new variable, which we can call dog or collector dog collector. And let's say that equals input. So can we use now this process function, right?
Well, now what we want is a cast. Have I gotten this right, Jay?
I haven't. Was the timer actually started? I'm not sure because it seems like it's more than 3 minutes.
Yeah, I didn't move my mouse to the. Any test?
Check. Did you start the timer? No.
I didn't.
No. Oh,
All right. So just hit the double arrows, and we'll just advance.
Okay.
But we'll make the rule that the person. No. So open it up again. So the person who's starting the timer will be the one who clicks start. So hit the double arrows. Up at the near the square play.
oh, yeah.
Operate.
There we go. And then Ogla, you'll be going, and Christian, you'll be navigating.
So who goes with the start, Christian or me?
You're typing.
Okay. So I will start it now. Is that fine?
So you hit your own start button.
All right. So let's see if I understood this correctly. So you said we wanted basically the casting itself is what we're testing for, or the check?
That's what we're creating.
Okay, great. So we do the cast, we assume it fails, and then we go from there.
Yep.
This is fun. Okay, so so we have the input of type animal. So can we just cast it every element to dog to the class dog here in this line?
So which
Doesn't exist. That's the entire point.
No.
We're
Okay,
gonna pretend it does, and then we're gonna make it.
To use the dog, right?
Yeah. No, cast. Cast it to a dog.
You will have to help me with any kind of syntax questions. C#.
That's all right.
Okay. So do you want me to go like this?
Gate. Let's ask elements, and I hope the mob jumps in with any other tips of how to do this.
So how do you want me to go?
I can't really go more complete than saying.
You're going to start with the input.
Okay.
What would be a good name of a method that would cast things?
Okay, this is where we're going. So to dog.
To dog is going to be very specific. We want something more generic.
Okay, then cast. If
There
this is not kind of already taken.
And then in angle brackets is going to be the thing that you want to cast it to.
Okay, all right. So let's say we will call cast to dog. So
Has to be in the angle brackets. In angle brackets.
Yeah. So this smaller than sign.
Sorry, I didn't hear that part.
So again, just intent, location, details. You jumped right to details, but she's not the right location. Where do you want her cursor? It's on line 71.
Well, are you talking to me,
yes,
Duell?
Christian.
Well, so I'll just go, and you say where I'm going off the rails. So as I understand it, Olga, do you see animal in line 71?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. So I want that. So animal in the square brackets, but can you just copy that? But instead of animal, we need dog, and just give this to our non-existing cast function as an argument.
But notice it's not an argument on line 71. Where is it relative to the parentheses?
So you want me to have it in line 73, right?
Yeah, but you can't put it as a parameter.
It looks, it's probably before the opening bracket. But as I said, I don't know.
No, that's okay. This is how we learn.
So here.
Yeah, and instead of animal, we want to do the cast, and we said we will cast to dog.
Dog. Okay.
Right, and rotate.
Okay. So this should already fail for multiple reasons.
Yep.
Would this be at least the syntax of that we would expect for casting
This
to
is
dog?
the syntax that
Okay.
I believe
So
we're wanting.
let's
We're in
end the
alignment
line.
here, Jay? Yeah. All right,
Okay.
rotate.
Yes.
So I take over as driver, I suppose.
You take over as driver.
Fighting the
And Jay is navigating.
Okay. All right, so just for syntax, we need a semicolon at the end there.
Just a quick, did you actually start? I didn't see very well. The timer was started.
Let's check.
Ah, good call.
No. Thank you.
Good catch. All right, I think 73 should be called just dog and not dog collector. We're not collecting yet. And then we need to make 74 into a line of code. So on 74 and a half, we're going to write dog.process function.
Shift enter will give you a line underneath.
Jay, can you repeat?
Yeah, dog.process function. And you can see on 60, the P and the F go uppercase for that. Actually, I think I'm wrong. I think it's just process because we're going to give it a lambda.
We're going to give it a lambda.
Yeah. So then in curly, in what do you call it, round brackets, parentheses, and we're going to do a lambda here. So some parameter arrow some param dot is good boy. Parens. Are we gonna? Oh, we can make it a property. This is fine.
Yep.
And then we're gonna assign that to something.
Let's just collect it.
Collect it. Okay, so yeah. So at the end of 75, where the semicolon is, we're gonna write dot collect, similar to 62. And we're gonna assign the result of that to a local variable, which is gonna be var collector.
You need a var in front.
A bar? What's that?
VAR, like you see on 60.
And lowercase c. You might have, you're on a Mac, right?
Yeah.
You might have sticky keys. Hit your command key once. Sometimes, because it's a Windows key, it gets stuck using AnyDesk. Right.
And then we're going to need a send line on 75 and a half, where we're going to say input.send new dog.
Send a new dog as a
new space dog. Oh. Space dogs sound awesome. And
space. No one
putting friends after dog. Oh, that's so scary. And then 76 and a half, we're going to have an assertion. Assert.r equal. Assert is true. Is there an is true? I want a true check.
Yeah.
Collector dot single result.
And verify the graph for me as well.
Okay. On 77 and a half, we're going to write pipeline approvals dot verify of input.
And rotate. No. Of is the parentheses. It's the parameters we're passing. So pipeline approvals verify parentheses input.
Oh, sorry.
But either way, rotate. So Eric.
All right.
Okay.
I'm ready.
So I'm trying to understand, like, I understand the intent here. But syntax a little bit here. So my understanding is we are on line 78 trying to verify that the input or that the single result that we're getting is true.
Yeah.
So from there, I'm not understanding the syntax, so I'm going to rely on the crowd here. Would input just, is there the possibility of just saying input is true? Or
No.
is there, no, I'm trying to think of how this would, this is a, not understanding the environment.
Before we go to understanding, let's start with just pattern matching. So you'll notice on line 77 or 78, or possibly not, that it doesn't quite match the pattern of the stuff above it, just C# syntax-wise. Do you see what's wrong there?
Okay, so if we could,
like these don't exist, but also they're not correct.
Right. So if we're looking up above, we're seeing that single result should be capitalized, first of all, or the capital S for single result. Can we look into single result, do a control click there? Or
before
just
we get to there, so we got that one, get the next one.
Okay.
What's the next?
So the other one, so I'm looking for an example of verify then.
But just based on everything else, how do?
Well, it's going to be capital V. It's going to be capital V to start.
Yeah.
So can we? Okay. So can we understand what can we do either a highlight over or just to see what verify? So that's going to be an iGraph node, which does input pipe qualify as a iGraph node, or?
And that's why it's not red underneath it. So now that you have your consistency, we can go to just programming by red. So what's our first red?
Okay, so the first thing we need to do is create a method cast.
Actually, that's our second thing.
Oh, sorry, you're right. Input. So can you highlight over the input?
It's a reverse Polish notation though. So rotate.
Okay. So. Okay, Esquire.
That's right.
What's
our first thing? That's red.
Somebody's typing. It's my turn.
No, Eric should be typing. Eshwar should be navigating. Oh, you're on mute. Quick muting lessons in Zoom. Alt-Shift-A will unmute you, or Command-Shift-A, depending on your thing, and then holding the space bar will also temporarily unmute you. Both of those are useful.
Oh, thank you.
So what's our first red?
Yep, right there.
Somebody's typing.
Who's the navigator?
You're navigating. I'm typing.
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
So Eshwar, what's wrong with the dog?
I think we don't have a type defined. I think.
Good.
Yeah. So Control N, or I don't know, what is it? Alt Enter.
Say the intention. That should be enough.
Yeah. Just create a dog class.
There we go.
Yeah. Probably a subclass of animal we have created before.
Good.
Okay. So that's the correct
Yes.
the correct thing? Okay.
I guess so.
All right. Now what's your red?
Cast.
Good. Jay, where is this going to show up?
If you mean if you click on it now?
No. Where do we want this method to show up? I assume
gonna
we
need
want
a
it to
new-
be sort of next to one of our previous methods. So normally the way you would do
Yeah.
this is you would add this method to a class, but that is actually not the way it's happening here, which is why I'm doing the interruption.
Mhm.
We want it
Let's go
next
look.
to.
Go look at for each pipe.
Can
That's
I,
a good thing. Yeah.
I have a.
Oops, not this.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
So I was thinking, as a different approach, would it be better? So instead of var dog, just use like input pipe of dog. So then fix the other compilation errors and then go back to the cast and actually implement it. Because if you
That's a
specifically
nice idea. Yeah, let's try that.
Okay. So then this will turn into a dog.
No.
No.
Sorry.
Actually, that's valid enough. Yeah, sure.
Okay.
No, so, I was thinking, Eshwar, do you understand what I was trying to say?
No, you can go ahead. I'll catch up. So there's a
Okay,
little.
so it's your turn to type anyway.
Okay. All right.
Tony, did you understand where he was going?
Okay. Go ahead.
Oh, you're on mute, Tony.
Sorry, not really. I not really understand where we're going right now. So
Tony, can you tell Eshwar to undo the last editing of and
okay.
uncomment that line.
Yeah. So uncommon line 73.
Yes.
Yes. Somehow the control command is not.
And instead of var on line 73, use delete the var and put in type of dog, of a generic type dog.
That actually won't help. Founding. var will do the same as if you explicitly declare it.
No, so just to explain what my rationing, the cast doesn't exist yet. So I was trying to fix the other issues. So on line 76, 77.
Oh, okay. So you're saying it will, the compiler will be able to figure it out.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
So you want the same input type for a dog?
I think it's.
No, that's not what he's saying.
Okay.
Hold on one second. Just delete line 73 for a second. Go to the var. No, put your cursor on the word var.
Var.
The very first word on the very first word there. Okay, and in there, you're gonna cast this to. What would this be, Jay? We're expecting this to be a function pipe or a.
After cast, it's going to be a cast pipe.
Yeah, but cast pipe doesn't exist right now.
Yeah.
So just a pipe.
So I was thinking it could be an input pipe of a dog.
Sender.
The sender of dog. Okay. It's not an input pipe.
Okay.
But a sender of dog. So where you have the word var, change it to capital sender with angle brackets dog.
So something Valentin was saying got me thinking about a way we've addressed this before, which is instead of writing .cast, if we wrote input .process lambda that casts to dog, we can get the test to pass even though it's not quite the right test. And then the next step is to replace a process of cast with a cast.
You're right. That's not what Valentin said, though. That's how I interpreted what Valentin said. So let's do this one first, and then let's do the second one, and then we can see them side by side.
Okay.
So, no, you're still going to be called dog.
So I think that dog just okay.
Yeah.
Is that what you want?
So what's happening by doing this is it's allowing the next process to realize, hey, is good boy is not working for us, right? And so we can sort of see the rest of the thing.
So
rotate, and then side by side we'll do this with J's.
Okay, so Tony.
Yeah, so I will click now to start my turn.
So Robert, if you remember in the line we had that we don't want to need this, we're going to do that and need it anyways instead. Is that enough for you, or do you need more?
No, I don't understand this.
Okay, so let me just navigate for 1 sec. So on line 73,
Sure.
say,
Yes.
or 73 and a half, make a new line.
Did you
No,
use
73 and a half. You split the line.
Oh,
Put the line
okay.
back together. Shift enter. We'll give you a new line.
Shift enter. Sure.
There. And here say var dog equals input dot process, and then underscore goes to. No, goes to is a fat arrow.
Sorry, how do I do the go to?
Equals greater than.
Oh, okay. Equal greater than. Oh, okay. Go
And then
to, yeah.
here put a parenthesis, and inside of that you're going to say dog. No, just no dot. Capital dog. And then outside of the parenthesis you're going to put the underscore again.
Sorry, outside of it, I'm going to put which one? Sorry.
Right there you're going to put an underscore.
Underscore, yeah.
No, not a dot. Underscore. Nope, not inside of the parenthesis.
Okay.
Right there. Underscore.
Yeah.
Nope. Underscore.
Oh, underscore. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, and then put your semicolon at the end.
Semicolon at the end.
That's a colon. And, yeah, there you
Yeah.
go. Okay. So if we comment out line 73 now, is it? Yeah. So what this is the way we were doing it before, right? This is the we wish we didn't need this. We wish we could just say, hey, cast this as a dog. We want to be able to say it on 73. The advantage of this is it lets us actually run the entire test and get it working, and then put in the function that we wish we had. The advantage of the way Valentin was saying it is it allows us to move on with the compiler and get it so it's at least compiling, right? Although it still won't execute. Your insight, I think, Valentin, of let's get the rest of this test under control before we jump into the complicated one, I think that's right on. Are you comfortable doing this one instead of your suggestion?
Yes. So I like it. I like it, Jay. Thank you.
All right, Robert, we're back to programming by red. Deal with the next red. Oh, well, rotate.
It's time already.
Yeah.
3 minutes is quick. Valentin.
So first, I have noticed there are like 2 timers again. Can you close the other timer? Can you check? Yeah, this one. Close it. Okay. So I think first it complains about can you hover over the process on line 76 to see what's the.
So it's reverse Polish notation. So it's always the inside that is first, as
Okay.
opposed to the. Yeah.
So let's implement is good boy. First, can you make it so it's a property? So in C# property start with capital. So can make capital I.
Good.
Okay, and now implement. So if you put Alt Enter. So create the property. Yes. It returns a boolean, so bool. Okay, go back to the test. We want actually, I'm asking, should we make is good boy return already true, or let the test fail first?
Yeah, nah. Sure. Let it fail first. That's not bad.
Okay. So it seems like there's another. So some param, the naming is weird. Can you type? I think Alt Enter. Oop.
Oops. Sorry.
You can just rename it and then hit Alt Enter.
Okay.
We'll have it. Oh, I'm at the previous one. So I'll rename it to
I don't know.
underscore.
Underscore is fine. D would also work. And now hit Alt Enter. Apply rename. That is
It
weird.
didn't work as expected.
Try hitting a D.
Alt Enter and then apply
I think it's having
rename.
trouble with the underscores, but yeah, try it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's try with D. So put a D, a letter D. Yeah. Let's see if no. Oh
There
yeah.
it is. Yeah.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
interesting.
So the compiler seems to be fine now. Can we run the test?
Can I click here?
Yes.
And what is your expectation when you run this test right now?
Is good boy by default should be false. So the search should fail, I think. Let's see if I'm correct.
It failed.
Good.
Okay. So indeed. Okay, I'm taking over. I'm gonna be the driver.
Yep.
So okay, I'm gonna Olga, you tell me what to do.
Okay, so we want our test to pass, right?
Yes.
Yes, we want our test to pass.
Let's go then to the. Can we just return the true immediately and make it pass for the beginning?
I think. And
can you do that?
Yeah.
What do you want to do next?
Can we now run the test just to see if it happens?
Good. Can you pause the timer for a second?
How do I pause it? Just click on it?
There's a black box right next to the double arrows, which for some
Yeah.
reason it's not showing up. Oh, that also works. Okay. Go back to the thing that just opened. Visual Studio Code. So this is the first time we're hitting there, so I just want to take a pause to explain what's happening. First of all, hit Control Shift V.
Sorry, Control
Shift V. So here's the situation we have. We have an animal coming in. We're doing that convert on the dog, and then that gives us a dog out, right? And then we're asking if it's a good boy, which returns a Boolean that we are also collecting, right? There's two things that we want to happen with the cast. The first is go back to the received file, so the first tab in here.
Sorry, what?
The first tab. So we're in the second tab, the preview. Yeah, go there.
Okay.
I'm guessing there's a little bit of design here, Jay, but on line 4, where it says convert dog, can you highlight that and let's do a replace?
Sorry.
Whoever's typing is still typing.
I'm typing.
Okay, Valentine.
So what do you want me to do?
On line 4, it says convert _ dog.
Yes.
Right? Can you highlight that for me? And change that to cast angle dog.
Mm-hmm. Hold on, back up. Hit Control D to select all of them. Control D to select 11. So there you go.
Yeah.
Now
okay.
type casted dog.
And now go to the preview again. So that seems more of like what we want.
I like that.
I think the shape is okay as well, right? Like I don't think we need a special shape for the casting.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So, all right. So this is sort of how we want that to look. Other than that, I think we have it all in. But does that make sense for everybody? Put everyone sort of on the same page. Because this is what we want, let's just manually approve it right now. So if we go to the receive file.
This one?
Yeah, do a save as. And where it says .approved, no, whoa, go back to the save as. Where it has the .received in the file name, change that to .approved. So, yep.
This one?
Yep. Yep. So now it has the ability to just exist properly. All right, so let's go back to the test.
Should I restart the timer?
Yep, restart the timer and oh no, sorry, we need to explain one other piece here, right? Because go to the test, because this part's going to be different. There's no way for you to know. So instead of line 74, let's comment that out. And let's uncomment line 73, which is what we actually want. And instead of sender of dog, just say var, because we are going to want that to be a var. Okay, now the pattern that you're going to follow here is going to be the same as the for each. Do we have a link to the for each?
Just open the file.
No. Yeah, Control Shift N, right? Or Control Shift T.
Control T.
Control T. For each. For each pipe.
The second one.
The second one, not the async one.
It's not taking my input.
Can you click on it?
I'm clicking, nothing happens.
Can you use your arrow keys?
Nope. Nothing.
Let me try. I'm going to see what happens if I click. All right, try again.
Nope, no mouse or arrow keys.
On my side, it looks frozen.
Yeah,
Nothing
Twitch stream is frozen too.
Oddly enough, works for me.
Did it? Can you click it?
I can click things.
It looks frozen to me.
All right, I think at the very least, Llewellyn should disconnect and reconnect from any desk.
Any desk? All right.
Mm-hmm.
I can do that. Maybe I can't do that. Force quit.
Go in the dishwasher.
Okay, I can do it now. And then
Do this work.
Reconnecting now. It says waiting for remote side.
Nobody move your mouse. Everybody be very still. Because I'm having trouble clicking on things now. All right, should be back.
All right, I'm back. Now let's go back to Visual Studio. There we go.
So I was control. Can I maximize this? Okay.
Now
Control.
open up the for each pipe. There we go. Sorry about whatever happened there.
On my side, it was completely frozen, so I will run AnyDesk again.
Just want to make sure that I don't think I started the timer again.
Okay, so Ogla, let us know when you're back in, and then we'll rotate you in. So start the timer here.
Same for me, by the way.
Okay, so here we have a for each pipe. And you can see that we have a static class here, and here is where we are.
Okay. Somebody's using the.
Right, let me do this. Hold on a sec. And Llewellyn, you have a browser that's obscuring the screen a little bit.
Oh, thank you.
All right, go ahead.
Okay. So, Llewellyn, you were saying?
So this is the pattern we're going to use for the cast. So you're going to need to make a class called cast pipe. Like basically, you're going to copy this class and change it to match the casting.
Okay. Is there a copy type command in ReSharper?
You can just copy from line 7 to 18. Copy it, paste it here, get it working, and then we'll pull it out into its own file.
So you're saying in the same file?
Yeah.
So you said cast pipe,
okay.
And process cast.
Yeah. So, yeah.
So tell me.
So for the cast pipe, there you have T input, T output. You're still going to have an input, right, Jay? Wait, how does this work?
So
do we have one variable or two?
One in, one out. Yeah, one in, one out. So it's T input, T output still. But the function pipe return type should be a function pipe going from T input to T output.
Okay, and it works on sender.t input.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And takes a function as a parameter? No, it doesn't take any
parameter. But it is going to need another type parameter, which is the. Is it?
So the timer is. Sorry, the timer is.
Yeah. So hold on. So let's rotate. Ogla, are you back in? Yep. Okay. So let's put your keyboard.
Jay, could you? Sorry, Jay, could you allow me in as well? I have to reconnect as well.
I need to step out for 1 second. Jay, can you take over facilitating?
Yes. Unless we all need a break.
But isn't almost time? Like it's almost 12. Do we want to continue past 12? Or like 15 minutes?
That's a good question. Oh, there it is. Yeah, we don't have a hard end time. So what are people's thoughts? Who would like to continue? Who would like to stop around 12?
I would like to stop, but
Okay.
I'm fine to just step out. And the others can go on, of course.
I would like to continue, but it would be good to do a retrospective too. So if people are want to leave at 12, I don't know, we should do a retrospective and then still continue after 12 if there are people willing to continue. I don't know, because I would love to have everybody in the retrospective.
That makes sense to me.
Yep, agree.
So let's do till 5 minutes retrospective is enough, Jay? I don't know.
Yeah, let's wait for, let's do one more rotation until Llewellyn comes back, and then switch over to retro.
Okay, perfect.
Who is the next? Okay,
So,
go ahead.
Okay, let me just close this. Okay, it works now. So I'm a driver, right? Or no?
Christian is navigator.
Okay, so we are just copying this function and just making use of the existing pattern. I have to admit I'm a little bit lost of the general strategy. So, we renamed the function, the copied function cast type. We called the process type process cast, and now we see the complaints about our template type. Do I see this correctly?
Yeah. So
the timer is not started.
I think, did I?
Or
this one.
it is.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, no, it says Augustin. Okay, so you're driving, I see. It says function type, which is.
Oh, Christian, I would recommend. I have no idea about the pipeline, this library. So I was wondering if Jay could help with what's the parameter of the. So on line 24, what should be there? Because I have no idea.
Yeah, 24 should not exist at all. It does not take a function as an input. The cast that we wrote in the test takes only a type parameter. It's not take a function parameter.
Okay, so to remove 24, right?
Yeah. I think we also need to name it cast. Isn't that what we used at the call site?
Yes, we did.
Yes.
And we also wasn't this the approval thing we edited had also cast in it, right? So it would be.
Which line?
Yeah, so normally I would go back to the test. Kind of an orientation. So let's go back to the test if no one else has a faster idea. I'm just trying to think out loud. So yeah, we have inputs.cast, and then the type input is the input is of type input pipe. Okay, so let's go back to the file.
I think the timer is up.
Even though the timer is going off. 3 minutes are really fast. Okay, so I take over as driver.
Yeah.
So let's do another turn till Llewellyn is back.
Yeah.
So I'm
all right. So the thing that's catching my attention here is I thought that by now 73 would compile, even though the implementation of the function isn't right. So I want us to focus on that. So what is the error that it's giving on .cast?
It's the function is called process cast instead of cast. I don't think we changed the function.
Okay. So let's go fix that in for each pipe.
Okay, so how do I jump to the declaration?
Sorry?
Is this okay, go to definition. No, this was bad.
Just the first file, the very first tab, is the place where we've been writing this, but we'll move it. Yeah, rename on 22. Just remove the word process from that. And that should be enough to get the call site to
I don't think that's going to be enough because the compilation will fail. Okay, let's see.
Let's see.
Okay. But it does not autosave, right?
Correct. So let's go look at the test again and see if the red is gone there.
I'm trying to save. So can you help me with the test?
Pipeline test.cs.
Thank you. Maybe it's also not saved. Maybe this does something.
So that's a little better. Incorrect number of type parameters. So I don't know how to make this work, but change the cast to go from animal to dog. So cast angle bracket animal comma dog. I feel like we're getting closer. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so we're green. So this isn't ideal, but this is at least green at the test site. And we'll keep thinking about that. Let's go to the implementation of cast and see if we can get it to pass. So this is going to be a function pipe that goes from T input to T output on 25. To remove the IEnumerable and the list parts.
Thank you.
And then on 26, we're going to make the string cast of left angle bracket. And then in those, in that big curly substitution that's in there where it says function pipe, blah, 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 we're going to change that to type of T output dot name.
With the angle brackets.
Yes. The angle brackets go on the outside. Right, type of T output. Yeah, let's pause here because the timer is blinking at us. And so Llewellyn, we are approaching our time box, so we said we were going to switch to retro.
Let's go another 3 minutes.
Some people might want to leave at noon, and we want to do retro before they go. And then if we want to continue after, that's also okay.
Okay, that's fair enough. Good.
So I will bring up.
It just feels like that would be a good thing to see show up in the thing, though.
It sure would.
You sure you don't want to see it first?
It's the story of programming, man. We can be this close for the next 6 hours if we want to. So let's do a retro.
Okay, we'll do a retro first. I'm going to drive for the retro. So normally when I facilitate, I don't participate so much in retro, but I am going to in this one. Where's my retro? I want this link. And if I go here, And that should work. Oh, bummer. All right. Are you sure it was? Let's try again. Okay. There we go. Mobbing, Twitch, and pipelines. All right. So, what did people observe today?
The I guess the how to say the durations of the mapping only 3 minutes. Is it too fast or is it too slow?
We'll get to answering that question later.
I heard you suggest that we use intention, location, details. That was neat.
I'm not sure what does that mean.
So, like when we were programming, you would say we're gonna make the cast line, or like when you're saying like, can we try using the variable so it doesn't? Like that's our intention. Then if they're not there, get them to the right location. Like if it's on line 57, it's highlight the word var. Then if they're still not doing it, now we go to details. Type sender angle brackets.
Oh, I see.
So just a methodology of hitting it. So a lot of the standard stuff I'll do here is like tools, team, that's not what I'm trying to do. Domain, patterns, emotions, language. All right. So just tool-wise, we had AnyDesk. We have the Google Doc. We have VS Code. We have VS Code. We have Visual Studio. We had Zoom. Anything I'm missing on this? Oh, we have the mob time.
EC2.
We had EC2. We didn't have to use it too much, but what was people's experience like with EC2?
I don't even notice that we use EC2. Sorry.
Yeah.
The latency is quite okay from Europe.
Oh, cool.
So for me, I really liked that I could invite everybody to jump on a machine without worrying about the security concerns of sharing my real hardware.
Yeah, that is really nice. And I like that we were able to, so we rotated the driver in a remote mob on a 3-minute timer. And like not as easy as when we do it in real life, but not horrible. Like that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I'd say it was probably as easy as a lot of my regular mobs, whereas, I mean, a lot of times driver navigator goes off the rails when we're all on our own computers because of Git, you know.
Yeah.
I've seen mobs struggle to figure out, like, I'm going to stand up after you stand up, and then you have to get out of my way so I can get past you to go sit down. And that problem doesn't happen here. So in some ways, this is a win.
Yeah.
It would be
It-
interesting if there was a way for any desk, and this goes a little bit off, but if any desk had a way to kind of like say, view everyone, and then like somebody could just like control, like the next person could like say, okay, I'm done. You can, you have the keyboard now.
Yeah, and then just in general here, like there was issues with multiple people. Usually it was mousing, right? Like it wasn't so much multiple people typing wasn't so much a problem, but we had issues with everybody sort of hitting the mouse when they didn't mean to. It'd be nice if you could sort of designate a driver.
That's super interesting because it might be that this makes the switch easier, because this risk that's always there that you just move in by accident makes it very tangible how to switch.
Yeah.
And we reduce the handover by git commits. That's I feel always a git pull and commit and little painful in remote mobbing.
Yeah.
So this single workstation logging in helpful.
Yeah, I kind of enjoyed that aspect too. And then we didn't have to worry with like getting everyone set up either, which would have been a nightmare.
Yes, big point. Yeah, big plus.
VS Code, you did something I really liked, and I forgot what the keyboard shortcut, but what it was like, select all. It was like cursor select all.
Oh, the Control D to select other things. The multi-cursor.
And it was Control D?
Control D is whatever is currently selected, select the next instance of that as well.
Just one or all of them?
Control D adds one. Control Shift L selects all.
Oh, that was cool. Anything else we noticed in our tools?
I'm wondering how was the experience for people that are on Mac? Only Christian was on Mac?
I'm on Mac as well.
I actually got a little bit confused about how to move my cursor. The muscle memory was just not there. So I probably would just check that out for another time and just have a cheat sheet for me, to be honest.
The doc was useful for the scenario, but not much else. Like it was helpful in the intros as well to get everyone's info. Okay. Any other thing in tooling before we switch Spotlight? Let's move to language. So I know there's a lot of people for which C# is a new language for them. What did you observe that was new to you?
Typing. I think it's I was struggling most with the syntax, not really understanding what all that code is actually doing. Angle brackets, etc. I've seen it before, but it's totally unfamiliar for me.
Yeah. Sorry, if I remember right, you're coming from Python, right?
Yeah, mostly Python and a bit of JavaScript. But,
do you use type hints in your Java or in Python?
Yeah.
All right, but it still doesn't get to casting.
No, so I'm aware of types, etc. But the syntax that you have this those angle brackets and parens.
Yeah.
It's also not really clear to me what it's actually doing. So it's hard to read the code and understand the nuances that I'm sure that Valentin has.
Just to give a quick overview on that, I think there's maybe like a more generic issue this is bringing up of like time to address confusion, right? Which like it's not exactly the right time to do it in the middle of the mob, because then we just don't get anything done. But we do need space to address those things. Like the way I would do this if we were like, working together as a team in a company kind of thing, is this would be the thing that we pop on tomorrow's learning hour, right? And then during learning hour, we'd focus on types.
What I appreciate is, no, sorry, I'm interrupting you. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, so in Python, the way that this would read is you would just literally ignore everything in the angle brackets. You would just ignore, right? And then it becomes Python and JavaScript. But what's needed here is this ability to say, I want to return a function pipe of the thing you're passing in, but I don't know what you're passing in, right? So another way you can sort of deal with this is instead of putting anything in these angle brackets, you can just replace all this stuff with object, right? But the problem with object is if I return you a function pipe of object, how do we know it's a dog, right? And again, in Python, you wouldn't care. You would just pretend it's a dog anyways, and you duck type it, and it would work at runtime. In JavaScript, the same thing would be true. But here, because we're a type language, we want to be able to say, yes, I'm returning a dog, but I don't, like the person who's writing this method doesn't know that dog exists. So you're going to give me some method, some object, and I'm going to return you back an object that is of that type. And it's that a sort of a syntax to say, I'm expecting two types to occur here. I don't know what they're going to be. I'm going to call them T input, T output. And then I'm going to do things like send you back a function pipe of T input and T output. I'm going to create a function pipe of T. I'm going to cast to the output, right? So it's like a variable, but a variable specifically of type, as opposed. Does that make sense at all? I'm not sure if it makes like a lot of sense, but hopefully it moves you closer to the from where we were.
It does. Actually, I was surprised a bit that we were just taking a deep dive into code that you have been developing before, without a lot of introduction. I was actually surprised to see how well that went.
So I feel like we went about 4 rotations where either I or Jay was fully navigating. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, that's about right.
So 4 times 3 is 12 minutes. So that was 12 minutes to get some, like, not a lot of understanding, but enough understanding that like we could start moving, which is pretty amazing, right? Like for what, nine people.
Right, yeah. From my outside perspective, I still feel like we weren't quite moving at that point, even though we had kind of moved. It was really trudging through mud for that first couple of rotations, and I think that 3 or 4 minutes beforehand would have been really helpful, because like I think that I was really struggling early on to try to get some sort of context of like what like I didn't understand the intent of the code, and that, in something that's kind of in the abstract, this is a very abstract problem, and that it took a little bit long.
So there's 2 aspects of that, I think. So first, on the domain of just casting, right? Like we had to discover the problem, which wasn't what we first thought it was, right? If you remember, in the very beginning, we were like trying to get a failing test, right? like we went down that route of getting a failing test, didn't get it the way we wanted to, and then had to jump to the board to actually come up with a scenario that failed properly. And that's not solved by us explaining things, because at that point neither Jay or me really had an idea of what is actually needed, right?
So, you know, taking a step back, what I meant more is the intent of this, you know, like there was the Arlo Belshi at the front end saying we're moving from trying to do something synchronous to something asynchronous.
Yeah.
And we intuited that this is some sort of library code.
Oh, yeah.
And so it was, you know, kind of a introduction of what the code is, you know, what the intent of the project is at a little bit more of a granular level, at least enough for us to bring into our mental map.
Yeah, my experience is that's over an hour to give you not the best. So like we just jumped into something fairly complicated, and I mean that, like, Arlo gave that talk, what, 2 years ago now?
Yeah.
Almost 3 years ago.
Sounds right.
And
yeah.
We have been working a lot to understand that talk.
Yeah.
So I had kind of a similar problem understanding the context of the whole thing, and combined with me not knowing the syntax of C#, I was actually wondering if the words we are typing are part of C# standard library, or if we are implementing that. So this was basically a. But I just want to say,
if we go to the language and we talk about types, ask other. This is a great time to ask questions of, and there's two ways to ask the question. One is you can say, like, I don't understand what's going on here. Like, I didn't understand what's going on with types, right? And that's a valid way of asking a question. Another valid way of asking a question is, I think what's going on with types is this. Is that correct? Right? Where we can, like, check, validate an understanding. So either of those two things would be great for you to share now. And by you, I mean everybody. So anything that your brain is sort of churning on.
So for me, it would be interesting to really understand that function that we copied to, or the type we copied to create the cast type, the second one. To really go through the tests where that one is tested and understand every step of it. This would at least give me a little bit of an impression what the flavor of abstraction is we are talking about.
So there's two things to pay attention to here. The first is, and this is really tricky, but you see this word "this" right here on line 10?
Yes.
Okay. So what that is doing is what's called, oh crap, what is that called, Jay?
Extension method.
Extension method.
Yeah.
All right. So what that means is, like, this is just a static method, right? And it takes, so if you look at it down here on 23, it takes a sender. But if you look, so you think that the way you would call this would be castpipe.functionpipe. Sorry, castpipe.cast. However, if we look at our test, you'll notice that we don't do that. Instead,
this is what I was confused by.
Yeah. Instead, what's happening is we're saying input.cast. So you can write the same method. Okay, hold on. So Jay, can you
for
type for
retro
me?
purposes,
I have to use modification keys that I cannot do on my keyboard right now. Just clone that for a second. And I think ReSharper can actually convert it to the actual function, right?
Hold on, we lost our place.
You want to be in pipeline tests.
Thank you. And just in terms of retro, like I want to make sure that we get to other retro topics that are important to us.
Right, but I still want to explain the, yeah, so here. So, wait, hold on, but clone it so we can see them side by side.
Mhm.
Okay, so here we have a cast pipe.cast that takes an input, and then on the line underneath it, we have an input.cast. Those two lines are identically the same, right? And in fact, line 74 compiles to line 73, right? But what an extension method does is gives you this sort of syntactical sugar so that you can write it in a more readable way. And it takes that very first parameter and it puts it at the front, right? And it takes away those other things that you need, or that you don't need, right? So it takes away the cast pipe because that method cast lives in that place. And so we are extending this thing. And the reason we're doing that is it allows us to extend in a more generic way, right? Where it's overlining quite a lot of different pipes without having to use an inheritance model.
Like in line 60 to 62.
Yes, exactly, like in line 62. That collect is actually not on, so if you control click onto that, that is also an extension method, right? So you can see the telltale this here.
Thank you. I learned something.
All right, let's jump back. Other things that people like are churning in their brains.
So can I ask, just related to the mob programming, since my connection was a bit shaky. Since I joined first time for the mob session in Budapest at the craft conference where Llewellyn and Emily hold it, I had the same impression. It was like also joining some, they did the kata, but since nobody was familiar what was going on and many things and you just jump inside, still people would figure out how somebody would stop and just watch, and then you at one point you think you figure out, and another turn you actually have no clue where you are. So I find it very good with mob programming that you actually, everybody has this kind of safety that you actually have space to go through all this stuff. And like Lula mentioned that, so for instance, now these things which we don't know, or we would go to the learning hour. And I can imagine if you would get by yourself this code and to go dig into that, and how much time you would actually need to figure out. I mean, and here Llewellyn mentioned like 12 minutes, right? When you have navigator. So somebody you have senior on a legacy code. So I just going analogy. And if you just jump in as a novice, and so I just wanted to add how the importance of mob programming on such systems is useful, how much helps. So just some of my insights.
Other observations, other questions?
I noticed a couple times somebody addressed somebody as you, and I found that really confusing because we've got a lot of you, and I think it would be useful to always use people's names when you're going to address somebody in this kind of context.
Yeah, that might be helpful.
So to me,
sorry, go on.
Yeah, to me, I kind of, after a long time, I was able to brush up on what is covariant and contravariant and all these terms, which is usually fuzzy the beginning, but I'm now able to see something in action. So,
and that is also, amazing because these are very complicated concepts.
Also, generics was mentioned, which is a new term for me.
Yeah. I feel like
And
it's
programming by
almost
red, is it something I mean I'm seeing you using for the first time, Llewellyn? You know, is it something just I picked it? I mean, you're
so that is
using it
not
for
something I created. I do not know who came up with that term, but it is a very common thing in TDD, right? Because your compiler is just literally being like, do this, do this, do this. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that the reverse Polish notation, it took me 2 or 3 times before I remembered what, the inside, like reverse Polish notation to me means something different than the inside out. So
Oh, that would have been a better way to say that. Thank you. It didn't even occur to me to say that way. That's a much better way of saying it.
so yeah, I think, but yeah, programming by red is something that I'm familiar with, but I think some of what's difficult about programming by red in a language that you don't understand is it becomes a magic incantation problem. So I think there's some piece of discoverability that I think we still have a little bit of ways to understand how to make that discoverable rather than magic incantation.
Any suggestions on how to make it more discoverable?
I think that's as much that's a very hard problem that is something that I think is worth like churning in the back of our heads than something that can be solved easily. I think it's a hard problem, not an easy one.
Huh. Other observations? So there's the moment that I'm thinking of, right? Oh.
I have one more. I heard somebody say, I'll just go and you tell me when I go off the rails. And I thought that was a really good idea.
That's beautiful. I like that too, because it's really it's preference action, right? Which in a mob I think is the best.
The only choice I had.
No, but that's exactly in the mob. That is exactly the best part I think about a mob is the preference action, right? Like rather than talking about doing a whole bunch of stuff, let's just do it and then respond. And that preference action is what makes it a mob as opposed to a meeting.
Can I take that a 9 to a 10 and say, instead of you, say navigator?
Oh, I like that.
The generic you to say, yeah.
Yeah. So call by role. Valentine, I'm spelling your name incorrectly. Sorry about that. There was a point where you interrupted us because we were focused on the wrong thing and rearranged our focus.
Yes.
And that was fantastic.
Okay. Yeah, sometimes it feels like it's back to the basics because we didn't have a failing test, and I had the suspicion that actually the code might be actually working, so not failing. So this is why, yeah. For me, it felt on a separate note, it was a very difficult project. So as others said, so I'm comfortable with C#, but most of the others were not. I have an idea about the pipelines library. The others were not.
Yeah.
So to me, it was actually surprising that we did so much progress. I was expecting to be much worse. And I don't have too much experience in mobbing, so that was how should I say, a pleasant surprise. I know it was difficult for most of the other people, but it was I was pleasantly surprised of how well it went, considering the limitations, the restrictions.
Nice. Yeah, that was one of the things that is one of the things that's kind of neat about this project and this situation is we can. I mean, so often when I do mobs with new people, we're not doing something that is like we're doing a toy problem, right? And it's nice to get a chance to not do one. Although I enjoy doing katas as well.
Another thing I want to mention is I like how Jay suggestion, like he improved on some idea. I don't remember what it was, but I remember that I liked how he suggested, and so basically improvements on top.
Yeah, so this is, I think what you're referring to is so the way you did it was to change the var, right? Modify change var to use old clunky method. Right. So, but either way, like it allowed us to get to much smaller, more granular parts.
And I think that ties to a pattern that is familiar for a lot of TDDers, that you copy something rather than just start modifying.
Oh, okay. So
because that was something I learned from Woody in one of the mob things that was just complete. Even though I'd TDD'd for a long time, it's something I'd never thought to do, is just leave the old code there and copy it over.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a version of fake it to make it. But yeah. And it's one of those interesting aspects of just in general with programming. Like we talk so much about the dangers of copy and paste. But often the problem is not copy and paste, but copy paste and then leave. Right? Like, so you're not cleaning up that copy and paste.
Right.
Lou?
Yeah.
I think, and Eric, just related to this one, the copy rather than modify. I think I noticed so far when I was doing the pair programming and stuff that keep it simple was like more rule of thumb than don't repeat yourself. So it was just copy, keep it, and later on you will figure out duplications and stuff.
And that also goes directly to what Valentino was doing, right? Like keeping us simpler. Other observations?
I liked how you kind of facilitated the two ideas we had in play, because we basically we talked about trying both of them, and I think then you asked Valentin, I think, if the first idea was close enough and okay to go with. And we didn't really try it, right? But I think everyone was happy with the situation. Valentin, you can jump in if I'm not correct. I suppose.
Yes, that's right. So yeah, Jay suggested something and it was much better. So, and we went with that. Yeah.
I find that getting both of them out and then deciding usually leads to much better outcomes, regardless of which way they choose. Right.
That was something that I took a long time ago from. I think actually it was pairing with you in the mob programming thing, in mob programming in Boston. Taking that even to my own things when I go as an analysis paralysis. So that's a really powerful tool.
Yeah, try both of them. So emotions, right? So unlike all the other things, anytime we get an emotion, which in this case was like or joy, I'm going to ask for the triggering event, which you also gave me, which was fantastic, which was the facilitation of the two ideas. The reason for that is, and just a quick intro to emotions. Emotions are your pattern matching brain detecting something's important, and then it doesn't give you much more information than that. But the way it tells you that something's important is through an emotion. And joy, uh, and here I'd go with mild joy, but is saying something good just happened that I didn't expect. Pay attention so you can repeat it, right? So I think what your brain is signaling to you is that, hey, this was good. You didn't expect it to be good. Try it. Try doing it some more.
Actually,
Other,
regarding to that note,
yeah.
this is the first time that I have this big of the mob programming sessions with like 9 people with strangers.
Yeah, we are. So yeah, we're 9 people. Wow, that is. So this is by far not the biggest I've ever done a mob, but this felt like doing closer to like a 20-person mob in person. Like I feel like we are hitting the edges of what a remote mob size can be. Does that? How do
Yeah,
other
I
people
think
feel about it?
that's my feeling too, because typically 5 to 6 is about the right size.
Yeah.
The other thing that I really like is the facilitations with the mind mapping, which bring out a lot of good things uh, from the participants.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it as well. I indeed makes me aware of so much thing that's going on, and that's what I really appreciate to observe all those patterns. I wasn't really aware of those.
One other Llewellyn, the
Yeah.
was the picture comparison. What is
That was
the
in
tool?
VS Code.
The
Total test?
inheritance and the dot graph, or what is that? That was really
So
nice and cool. This is the first time I'm seeing it.
yeah, this is graph viz, and we're using a plugin, and it's just oh no, wrong. Oh no, is this code or is this studio? This is studio. This is code. So yeah, this has been really helpful for us. Both in the fact that like this is a text file, which is pretty easy to read. If you don't pay attention to the formatting, it's even pretty straightforward, right? Like we have this animal that goes to cast, that goes to dog. Dog also has a trail off of it going to good boy, which goes to a Boolean and a collector. But the fact that it visualizes, let's try Control Shift V. Did I do that right? No, try again. Control Shift V. Jay, can you
Select something and hit Here, let me get in there.
Yeah. Not D. I want to do the visualization. There you go. So the fact that this renders for flowcharts, I've enjoyed making flowcharts with this enough that it's become my go-to tool when I make flowcharts. Right.
Is it part of approval or is it a different plugin?
Not part of approvals at
Okay.
all. Graph is a standardized thing from I think way back, and the plugin is actually part of just Visual Studio Code.
Go ahead and open the extensions tab.
Yeah, we're using this one. Graph is language support for Visual Studio Code by Yao. This is the one we find we like the best. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, and how did you create the output for that to visualize in VS Code?
So that happened on this line right here. Pipeline approvals.verify input. So verify input takes a type of the pipes, and then it traverses the pipe, writes the graph out as a dot file, and then because the dot file it writes out doesn't match what we said was okay, it launched VS Code to help you understand what is the current state of things. And this goes to like a general, this is approvals, but in approval tests, it matches against the last known thing you said was good. And if it doesn't match, it says, okay, I'm going to fail, but I'm also going to open up some tool for you that will give you some support, like help you understand what's different.
Interesting. Yeah. Gonna check that out.
Anything else?
So, unfortunately, my connection kicked me out from AnyDesk, but I don't know if I can rejoin. I just wanted to
that's
add
why
for
that popped out. Sorry.
Hopefully, yeah.
Can you see it now?
Yes. So I will just add for the liked for the emotions is like when we add scenario in a test before.
Yeah. So this is when we wrote it in English.
Yeah.
I find that it's helpful, period, and then super, super helpful when we're rotating so quickly, right? Because the ideas that you're putting into English, it was a long time before that became compiling code, right? But it was like it's like a variation of programming by red, right? Where it's like, here are the things that like a to-do list. Here's the things I have to do. Anything else?
Maybe in terms of preparation, I don't know what information I might have not seen, but it probably would have been interesting to me to watch the video before.
So when you say video, like us working on like a
no,
Twitch?
the video of about
the Arlo video.
Yes. I would at least be interested to watch it and just get some information that we are using C# because it really depends what the exercise is, because sometimes it's really nice to have people in that are totally lost with the syntax.
Indeed, for some simpler katas, it wouldn't have been such a barrier probably, but for this abstract stuff, and the concept alone is already abstract, and then if you're also looking at complex syntax.
Okay, so there's a couple things I want to address on this. First of all, I highly suggest you play that experiment out and tell me the results of watching his video and seeing if it helps. My thought is that it will not. That's not a slight against Arlo, who I deeply adore. But it is a very complicated, the thing we're doing is very complicated. We've spent a year trying to get it to where we are now. And the reason that talk exists is because of a conversation me and Arlo had in the bar where he told me this pattern, and then I tried it out on myself and I couldn't. I was like, it's not working. So I run the conference, and so I was like, Arlo, come give the talk on that thing you taught me in the bar. And I'm super glad that talk was recorded, because if I had only gotten to listen to it at Craft, I wouldn't have had enough to continue. Like, it took me a couple of times. In terms of the C# language, an interesting thing is There's a couple people that I think like when I go through my head, like they seem to have like less trouble with the C sharp, but in general, nobody sticks out as having much trouble with the language at all. Like the biggest things I remember were um, the casing of the letters, right? So like the first indicators to me that people were having trouble with C sharp was or weren't familiar with C sharp was that they were using lowercase letters as their first thing, which probably means they're coming from Java or Python. Um, in general, I felt like people were able to like read and consume decently, and we're doing some fairly advanced C sharp stuff. Um, I feel like in another like 2 to 8 hours, C sharp would no longer be a barrier at all to this group. And if I had you prepare C sharp beforehand, it's easily 8 hours. And you would, does that make sense? Like 8 hours of prep is not going to get you where you need by yourself.
For me personally, it's really just freshening up about how these concepts look in that specific language.
Yeah.
It's just a fun thing for me to do.
On your own?
Value for the exercise as a whole is questionable, I understand. But I will, now that you said this about the video, I will definitely watch it and
let me know if you agree. I would really like to know that answer.
Yeah.
Anything else?
I think there was a little bit of frustration management in emotions when people were struggling people were struggling in location. You know, like go to the beginning of this. Go to. You know, I think that's as much anything. Whenever you're working with strangers and not building the language of, you know, go to the beginning of the parentheses, the brackets, the curlies, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that is actually a pretty good idea. One of the things that I will do often is I have a vocab exercise, which I didn't do here, but just a way to describe different points on a window, right? And just to get common vocab. Now that you're mentioning it, it didn't even occur to me when I wrote this, right? Because here I was just like, you know, where's the gutter? Where's the tab well? Where's the, you know, so here we're on the right tab well in the outline, or here we're on the right tab well's toolbars. I was just trying to get around the screen in general, but you're right in terms of one of the things that's totally missing here is on line 22, how do I say get to the start of new items or get to right after the curly braces in the declaration? Like those, just going through a little bit of that vocabulary might make it easier for us when we, okay, so frustration is a combination of like anger and impotence, right? Meaning like something is not working, though, like something important to me is not working, and I don't seem to have the power to change it, right? If you do, then it moves from frustration to anger, right? And then it gives you more energy and says, go, you know, like you're angry, run your head through that wall, right? But if the wall is impervious, then your brain doesn't want to tell you to do that, but you still want to break the wall, but it's saying don't actually hurt yourself because you can't do anything about it. So it's your brain sort of saying this is important to you, but nonetheless you need to let it go, right? And so that is something that I'm not sure preparation would have been the right thing. Definitely as a facilitator, it would have been better if I had identified that and paused us and done a quick exercise there.
I sometimes say that mob programming is 90% mobbing and 10% programming. What I mean by that is learning to work together effectively as a team is almost all the magic. And the fact that we're doing programming, like that's just along for the ride. And so learning how to talk to each other, how to take turns, how not to move the mouse, what level of detail each person needs. Like those are all things that we just have to learn as we want to become effective as a team on this Saturday.
Yeah. Anything else before we go towards closes? So there's like two things that I want to do before we close. The first is let's talk about, so this was an experiment that me and Jay were like, hey, let's try it. Normally, our pattern is at the end of the session, we set up the next session. And so I guess the first question, even before we talk about setting up the next session, is that something, do you want to try to do this again? All right. So what I'm going to do is let's set it up to try again, but I'm not going to invite new people, right? So if you want to drop out, not a problem. Like you're not required to future sessions. But at the very least, the people that you do see will be the same, right? Okay, and then the next question is when should we set up the next session? So the first part of the answer is it's going to be the same time and day, right? So it's going to be a Saturday at 10 PST. Because I know enough from working with Jay that that's the time that hits our calendar. So the question that I'm really asking is, like, do you want to do it in a week, in 2 weeks, in 3 weeks, in a month, that kind of thing?
For me, it would work next week, but I don't know what others.
Yeah, next week would work for me as well.
As well.
All right.
I need an even.
Sorry, say again?
Sorry, I need an even number.
Yeah,
An
every
even
2
number?
weeks is about right for me. Yeah.
Does every, is it, let me pull up my calendar.
Every 2 weeks is about right for me.
Yeah, that'd work. I can do that.
Yeah, that would work for me too.
So that would be the 23rd. That work? All right.
Sounds good.
I will set up an evite for that, but can everyone just send me their email? So I won't set up another evite page for this. I will just set up a Google Calendar invite. Does everyone have my email? No. Okay. Let me do this.
I think we're just kind of by convention putting it into the group chat.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because that's probably the easiest way for
Oh, yeah,
everyone,
that
I
works
guess.
great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I didn't notice that. Okay. Cool. I'll set that up for the 23rd.
Maybe don't show it on Twitch.
Yeah, yeah. It's already set so the chat doesn't show on Twitch. Duplicate to 23rd.
Mob programming, the Dungeons and Dragons of the programming world.
So we leveled up. Never split the party.
Okay. And then the last thing, how are we in the code? Do we have a this is the one that we're in at the moment. Oh. Actually, Jay, do you mind driving for me for a sec? Are we at a committable state is my question.
We are red right now in a couple ways. One is this experiment that we put up here just for discussion.
Yeah, that
cut away. And then the other is here, this is not complete.
So can we comment this out?
Do you want it to pass tests? What bar are we looking for here?
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to compile. Compile and failing tests would be okay for me, but compiling and passing tests would be amazing. All right. let's do a commit there. I would.
Even better would be a throw.
So the suggestion was we do the retrospective, and people want to leave, they can leave.
But yeah, but I want to do the commit before we do that. So because so one of the things, yeah. So do that. Open up the GitHub desktop. One of the things GitHub will do is it'll co-author, and so I want to get everybody as co-author before we jump out. So under summary, 3 stars because we're kind of in a non-working state. And this is going to be test, cast test, yeah. All right, and then let's deal with our co-authors. So hit the, yep. You don't have to put yourself because you are the main author. But let's just start at the top. Valentin, what's your GitHub ID?
Maybe this should go in chat.
Oh, you're on mute. Oh, yeah. No, actually, it's probably easier not to. You're still on mute, though. You just hold the space button on Zoom. It will temporarily unmute you.
Yeah, so it's easier to type it. So it's my full name, I think.
VALENT. There you go. And then Christian?
It's in.
Yep. You're also on mute. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to move it on.
Oh, people can type their own.
Oh, yeah!
That's much badass.
So yeah, Christian, put yours in. Tony, put yours in.
I don't know if
Eric?
my keyboard is frozen, so I don't know.
I'll type yours.
O-N. Yeah.
O-N?
Yeah, O without L.
Oh,
O-N.
sorry.
Yeah. And then DJ.
How am I missing here? Sorry.
Somehow O-N and then DJ. My last name. DJURIC.
Did that? So my toolbar is, my dock is actually stopping me from seeing the bottom of the screen. Did that work?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Now it's not. Do we get everybody? Oh, we lost Ashwin. Do I have his GitHub? I do not. All right, let's commit. Jake? And you can even push. Okay, so I totally want to see the end of that thing pop up correctly. So I want to continue that on. Does that work with DJ? Do you still have a bit of time? I am not hearing you.
We cannot hear you, Jay.
But you are not muted. Oh yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah, my mic crashed, so that's my mic. We haven't had a break in forever, and
yeah, that's true.
important. So I'm happy to continue after, but we need,
right.
I don't know, 10 minutes.
10-minute break, all right.
I'm going to step out. Thanks, Llewellyn and Jay, for organizing. I really appreciate it, how you set up this this experiment and created a safe space with so much learning. I really appreciate that. I think I'll be back in 2 weeks. Thanks for now, and
Thank you.
enjoy finishing.
Will do.
Bye.
Same here. I have to drop out for the day, but I'm looking forward to next time. It was an awesome session. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining. It has been great.
Bye.
So yeah, so probably I need to drop off too. I would definitely I want to do it again in 2 week times. So and I learned a lot today, a lot actually. Thank you very
Thanks.
much for organizing this.
Absolutely. All right.
Thanks.
I'm
Do
going
in
to put the
10.
timer up there in 10 minutes. Anyone who still wants to, we're going to put the final touches on there.
Perfect. Thank you.
Hey there.
Don't interrupt me. I'm on break.
Okay, so let's get that stupid thing to compile. Do people mind if I tweet this?
Sure. Though if it's going to continually delete in 6 months, it might be helpful to start putting these as PNGs somewhere else.
Oh, that's a good idea. This will give me, oh, I probably didn't copy that because. Let's try again. Okay, Control plus the actual C. Copy. Although, you know, do people look at Twitter more than yesterday?
What?
Okay. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to stop facilitating and join the mob because we're down to 3, 4. Can you adjust our timer, Jay? So we got Eric, we got Valentine, although he's away from here, he's still here, and me.
What is this?
1 less L. Oh, that's good enough.
Oh, and 1 more E.
All right. So Eric, you're up. I'll drive.
Okay. Can we take a little bit of time to look at the code and then start this?
Yes.
Or just make sure that we're on the same page. So let's quickly look at the function code. Okay, so are we comfortable with what lines 25 through 28 are doing, or do we have other things that we need to have that do?
It's moving in the right direction.
Okay. So I guess, yeah, let's start that, and let's start with the English, just to, if people don't mind.
Yeah.
I guess we can start the timer then.
Okay.
Okay. So then we still want to return, I guess this is part design, part talk. We still want to return a function pipe that is the cast of the type T out. We were talking before about changing that cast of T input to T output as T output eventually. Do we want to? I don't think that we want to do that just yet. So let's make that type of T input T output probably.
This is the text.
This is the text, right? But it should match the. Should it not match the signature in line 22?
No,
No.
But it's
the
okay.
Display text.
This is display text. When you run this, the test will tell you.
Okay, so then we can skip line 26.
The bigger
then?
issue is this. This is not actually casting it.
Okay, so then, well, we're not going to want p.select to list at all, so let's get rid of that. And so, do we still want that as a p?
I can change the letter. What would you like it to be?
Sorry, is there a convention here, or
A letter.
okay, then P is fine if we're going to do that. And then this is where I need help from the peanut gallery. But this is going to be to fat pipe.
It's going to be a cast.
Okay, so it's going to be a cat. So then that's going to be T output, correct?
It's basically taking the lambda that was at the call site before and dropping it in here.
Right. Okay, so
Like
then,
so this is maybe good to talk about to understand what's happening in the code. We had a passing test earlier that was not quite the test we wanted. And what that test did was call a process with a lambda that does a cast. And one way of talking about what we're doing here is extracting that as a new method, where the new method, so process, what it does is creates a function pipe.
okay.
So basically it's like we're writing process with that lambda right here, except with a little bit different syntax. Does that help?
This is where the intersection of domain and language is difficult, but we're
Okay.
at rotation.
Oh, that's weird.
I don't know why I'm still.
Yeah, I don't understand that either. But Jay, click.
Okay.
You're still navigating, Eric. Because it's timer bug, apparently.
Okay, so I'm struggling here. Could use help then.
So it doesn't work, but I don't know why. Let's find out why.
Okay. So this cannot convert type T input to T output. So
why not?
So it can't go from T input to T output because.
So I think that in this situation, T output has to extend T input.
Okay.
Sorry, what's your level of familiarity with generics?
In Java, I know them, but
so the way that you would do this here is at the end of line 23, you would say where.
Okay.
Yep.
It's lowercase n. Yeah. Should there be a close? Okay. Oh, that just
formatted really differently. I'll put that back. There you go.
Okay, so then we don't. It's all compiling now. So, is this what we want? I think so.
Let's find out.
Let's find out. Let's run test. Are we running test or?
Yeah, we should be. There it goes.
The buttons have been hit.
There. Okay, so this is failing the approval. Does not.
Yeah, so it's good because the assert actually succeeded. No, we have an assert before the approval.
So let's go check out the approval.
Yeah, so it's. Cannot read. Is that really what we're looking?
Yeah, I was expecting it to open automatically in VS Code.
I was 2. Let's open that one more time. Okay, good.
Now I should
So,
end up.
Okay. So now let's see who's actually. Okay, it is my turn now. Okay. I'm
Valentine.
sorry. I just.
So let's go back to the.
So
VS
if you
Code.
compare those 2 files, you can see what's different.
Okay, compare the 2 files. That I am not familiar with VS Code enough to be able to see where we're. I'm going to need a little more here.
Yep. So
The
let's try
difference is the
this.
parens.
The difference
but
is
let-
the parens, but I'm not seeing the right thing on the screen, I'm guessing.
Let's show you how to see it. So let's go back to where we were. The
Okay.
test.
So then can I? No, I
Open up
cannot
the test.
control click. Okay, so I have to just go here. Okay. Line 79. Okay.
We're going to put in attribute on line 66. Sorry, Valentine, what's your experience with approvals like?
Not much.
Okay. So put the square brackets here and say
Okay.
inside there, use reporter, capital U, capital R. And then inside of here, we're going to do you have to do curly braces in C#?
No.
Or thinking Java. Okay.
You're going to do type
So-
of.
Type of diff reporter. And then after this comma, no, after the, yeah.
Type of.
And then comma, type of Visual Studio reporter.
Okay.
And try that.
Okay, so let's run this again.
And now it should launch in both.
Does anybody know, is there some background? Do we want to normalize the line endings to Windows?
Don't have
No. Okay.
to. And I forget if we decided Windows or if we decided Linux. I'm hoping we decided Linux.
I don't remember. Sounds right.
So here it's
Okay.
showing us now what the difference is, right? So the first thing
So-
is it's showing us the refactoring pipelines test dog instead of dog.
Right.
And the other thing is it's showing us the curved instead of the angle bracket.
You're right. Okay, so this part's easy to understand. If we would. My guess is we would want. Or I'm typing.
Yes, you are typing. Valentine.
So yeah. So
hold
can we
up.
make it the same?
I'm not typing. Valentine's typing.
All right, Valentine. Start
Okay.
the timer.
So, Llewellyn, tell me what to do.
Start the timer. Go to the test, or actually go to the for each pipe.
Sorry.
The second tab.
Uh,
Second tab at the top. Yep. And so here on line 26, where we have to change those to, yep. And a square brackets in there. So the next question is, how do we do that casting in general? Can you do a search for?
I think we need a dot name here.
Type of dot name or dot to? Do we have a to readable thing or something?
We do, but maybe
Just
we need
name.
that.
Well, let's
This
try
will
that.
make it now.
Yeah, give this a run. I feel like this will pass. I still feel like we've run into this problem before where that's not complete.
Hmm.
So while we're waiting for it to run, what does that name parameter do? Because
it's just saying that on the class, give me the name of the class. But
because previously it was calling toString automatically, and the toString gives you the fully qualified type name.
Yeah. Okay, so that passes, which is good. Let's do a commit. It's definitely a committable step.
Yeah. Is this an F?
Yep. So summary is going to be capital F.
Sorry?
Under summary.
Mm,
Sort of near the bottom, above the description, but you're very close, up about a centimeter. So capital F for feature space.
I cannot hear you very well. Sorry?
Space. And then cast angle brackets. And just modify the co-authors so it's down to the 4 of us. Eric, are you E. Bister?
Yep.
Right. So, yeah, no Tony, no Ogla, no Roberto, and no
Wait, we need. Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yep. Okay.
I just want to try one thing here. You see how one of the names is not highlighted? Will you click on it? I think it'll offer to search.
Get to the end of it, of Eric's. Get to the
move your cursor to
the right.
Say again, Jay.
Move your cursor to the right a few characters. Okay.
A little bit more.
It's not offering to search.
No, just go a little bit more.
Let me check to make sure that I'm not silly and missing my GitHub name. I don't think I am. No, that's right.
We're at time.
Maybe. Yeah. Okay.
So Jay.
All right. Am I navigating? All right. Let's there.
Wait, there's the search for user. There we are.
That worked. Commit. Push. And now we're expecting CI to pass.
Yes.
Should be good. All right, and then I think you have a concern about whether this is right. Well, the thing that's bothering me the most right now is that the test is called foo.
Yep.
And
I don't like that.
R would be a better name. So let's go fix that. So what? And we have comments. So let's yank the comments so we don't need any more. And we scroll up a couple lines. I just want to see what we're naming tests in here. I think we're going to call this cast test, but I want to check from precedent.
Basic pipeline test.
Just cast.
Just cast, yeah.
All right, and then we don't need 67 anymore.
I'm going to comment that if that's okay, or do you want me to delete it?
You think you will use it again in a minute?
Sorta. Yeah.
I'll allow it.
Okay. I'll keep it.
And let's see. Is there anything else we want to clean up here? This is fine. So let's check this in, or let's run this test. It'll fail. We'll have to approve the result.
Do you want me to rename?
We'll move on.
Or just run?
I just want to. No, cast is fine.
No, I mean, do you want me to rename the file?
Yeah, that's a good way to do it. Sure. There's no received file. That's why you're getting that error. But, we didn't ever open a folder. It's just opened this one file, which is confusing.
Oh, that is really weird.
So if you click on open folder and up to pipelines, Yeah, select folder.
And it took that away.
Yeah, so destructive. All right, foo approved. We're going to rename. Cast. And let's try running the test, see if that took. Next.
Jay, are you taking over?
Yep. Eric?
I did not hit the button to start the test.
Okay, well, let's start the test. Cast passed. Okay. So as we're cleaning up, so let's continue that. Do we have a mother object pattern, or do we want to start something that we have something for dog and animal? It feels like there's probably other test fixtures in here, or are there not? Is this the first time we've needed it?
First time we've needed it.
Okay. In C#, is it more likely that you just keep it as an internal class, or would you start building something?
For the test, I would keep it as an internal class. But the other internal class we have, I don't like.
The other internal class is
our cast pipe. Okay,
so let's look at cast pipe then. Okay, so let's create, I believe this is gonna stay in refactoring pipeline. So let's move this over to its own file.
That's better.
And we should probably rerun the tests. I'd kind of like to know what that warning is, but
that's committable.
The upper right hand of that, that feels like that is not important at the moment.
Yeah.
Okay.
But so that's committable.
Okay. Did it pass?
Yeah.
Okay. Then let's commit. And summary, I think what's your conventions
R.
here? R?
Capital R. So
yeah.
Part of it was automated and we could have lowercase started it, but not everything we did. But we feel it is safe. It's protected by test.
Okay, yeah, clean up test and move. You also move to the file. Okay.
All right. And I think that brings us to the end of this feature.
Yeah. Okay, I was gonna just, is there something somebody would like more than that?
That's fine with me.
Okay.
Yeah, I think this is good.
I wish we'd done it in smaller increments, but here we are. I don't want to go back and redo it just because we didn't do it in smaller increments.
Mm-hmm.
No, I do not want to do that.
Okay.
All right. I think that's all for today.
Okay.
This has been really great.
I have
Thank you.
Question.
Actually.
Oh, yeah. Can we go back to the project?
Okay.
So, I mean, in terms of usability, it would be nicer if you can specify only the output and not the input, and the input somehow to be inferred. I don't think that's possible based on my knowledge of C#. If you go back to the test.
I think we are, if we look at the test.
Okay, if we're going back
to second file.
Not the pipeline test, I thought, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So instead of cast animal dog, you specify cast dog only. That would be, in terms of usability, would be better and nicer.
That would be nicer.
Would that? Do you guys agree?
I agree.
I agree it would be nicer, and I don't remember how to
possible?
make that.
I don't think it is possible.
No, it must be because there's a cast. Let's go look at the signature for cast.
I
On an
looked
array.
beforehand.
Huh?
It's it uses IEnumerable as the input, so the not the generic version, but the non-generic IEnumerable.
We have
So
that.
they don't.
So let's go to the input pipe.
Input pipe.
Sorry, cast pipe.
Cast pipe. Okay.
So instead of so this takes an iSender of T input. You can pass it just an iSender.
So if we just that.
Yeah, and then to get rid of the everything that says T input.
Okay. Do we still want to wear T output?
No.
Just
I'll
might not
do
work.
that in just a second. Let me get rid of all the rest of these. So then,
Sorry. That was my fault.
No worries.
Trying to research a thing.
Okay.
We can't just do a function pipe of.
Okay, it's next person.
Okay, so it's me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for right now, instead of saying for function pipe on line 8, say object, comma, T output.
Okay, let's try.
It's not ideal. And then you're going to have to do that on line 5 as well. Oh, actually, but what we really want is not, instead of a function pipe that it's returning, return a sender of T output.
Oh.
Isn't sender generic or abstract?
I think
so. It's
then it'd probably be iSender. iSender of T output.
And what would be on line 8?
What's the problem with sender?
I think we had a misunderstanding. So function pipe takes an iSender of object, right?
Yeah.
So we need on 6 an iSender of object.
Okay. It might work.
Or we could on 11 try to cast.
See if it works.
Should I run the test?
Oh yeah.
I won't build. It's telling us in the error section at the bottom. So you're going to need to remove animal on 73.
Oh, that's good.
That's what we're trying to make work. And then
but sender doesn't do a process. We need a function pipe for a process.
Yes, iSender doesn't do that. Go back to the
sender
implementation. I guess so.
Let's
we have a little bit of
confusion. Can we look at the sender code or the source to see?
Yeah.
Sender.
Yeah.
The generic one.
Yeah.
Yeah, So earlier I said sender's abstract, but I didn't realize what you were doing with it. You can return just a plain sender here.
Okay, let's try that.
So I go here, and what should I return? So
On line
online.
5.
Okay.
You should put your hands up.
Yeah. All right, Jay, sender.
Yeah, make the return type just plain sender. And so far this looks good. So see if it builds. Yeah, it looks like it's building. So run test. Control UU is run the last test.
Okay, and U is here. Did that work?
It might take a minute. Yeah, it's running. Will you close extra windows so we get less confused? We don't need for each pipe or input pipe or collector pipe. We don't need basic tests. Yeah, that looks good. All right, well, now you can go to the unit test tab. I don't want the warning. How do you put this away?
There. Did that work? I want to run it again.
I think so. Yeah, it's fine.
All right. Yeah, that's nicer. So we're doing the cast. It gives us a dog, and this gives us a sender of dog, which totally valid.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. That's a nice improvement.
Yeah. That's a.
That's
F.
not an R bang bang. All right. Thank you. Yeah, that's much better.
Do we update the to-do? Are we done with this feature?
I think we are.
Just a small thing. So
Yeah.
do you need commented the user reporter one? And also the test at line 57. Do we still need it? Worst, I mean, what if it's still needed? We should rename it because it's not what the test does.
Yeah, it's now process is covariant.
Yes.
We wrote this test. Man, this took until just now for me to remember. We wrote this test to document an existing limitation in the system. It's like a test for a known bug.
Yeah, but it didn't actually.
So that we could. And then at some point we addressed it.
If you don't need
so do we still need it? The test? Do we still need it?
I think we do want the test in its new form because it's gone from a bug to a feature.
In the cast form?
No, as currently written.
Oh, it's currently written.
Process is covariant documents the fact that process is covariant.
Yeah.
But my understanding is covariance. Sorry to interrupt.
No worries. You're up, Jay. Sorry, I didn't mean to click for you.
More like discussion. Can you go back to the test?
Yep.
So the one, yeah. So you converting from int array to enumerable event, is that covariance?
Yes.
I think so.
Okay.
But it's from int array to enumerable event. Yeah, that's covariance.
Okay. I had probably my definition of covariance is wrong in my head, so I'll read a little bit more. But okay.
To be fair, like we might have that reversed too. I believe covariance is I can find things above me, and contra is I can find things below me.
But isn't only about like array types, generic types?
It's generic types. Covariance is just generic types.
Yeah, so I think it's if I have a function that takes as a parameter a foo of t, and I want to pass in something that a foo of something that derives from t, I want to be able to do that.
Okay.
And similarly,
Yeah.
if it returns a foo of t, I want to be able to have it return a thing that t implements.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. You're right. I realize now. I think I was confused. Now it makes sense.
So I have two things here. First, we just did a cleanup, so we should commit. And two, since we're having this discussion about that, and this is a question, this is a genuine question, not a leading question, but
Lowercase t.
does the test as is express the intent of what we want to express? Like, would somebody coming to this this code base understand that range and some, I'm not looking at it exactly, that those are correct? You know, those are obvious.
I mean, so I haven't seen too many people like read through tests that are passing.
I do it. That's why.
Unless they're looking for examples.
Yeah.
of how to
See,
use
to me,
something.
it's like I look at this as kind of a spec, and you know, I would
agree
have
with
to
the
go in
spec
and
part
say
of that.
range array and some enumerable. Like, why is that? You know, why does that prove that it's covariant? Would be the only thing that I would.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a bit subtle. What it's saying is, given an array, I can pass it to something that takes an enumerable. That's why 60 says array and 61 says enumerable. Like that, those words right there are the key to this test, and everything else is kind of a distraction or context.
Then
so how do we make that more obvious?
So
Yeah,
so we can do that by pulling out on line 60. Pull out the first part as a variable.
All right, you know who's going to do that?
Eric
I'll
can
do
do
it.
it.
Okay.
So the first part, input process function. Now you're going to use your keyboard shortcuts for this. Input process function. So highlight that for me.
Okay.
And then pull that out as a variable, which probably is Control RV.
Control R, what?
You're going to have to get to the end of the parentheses.
Oh, okay.
I forget what grow is in these commands.
Okay.
But,
I can never get
Control
it to
RV.
bind consistently.
So you said, what was it?
Control R, Control V.
Control R, Control V. It's just not wanting to do it for me.
Am I misremembering the shortcut, Jay?
I'm going to just.
But after the input. It has to be after the input.
Oh, after the input. Okay. Var, what do you want to call this?
I want to call this int array pipe.
Oh, int array what?
Pipe.
Type.
Pipe.
Sorry. There we are.
And then semicolon in there.
Yep.
And then pull out int array pipe to process function.
Sorry. Clarify.
61.
Till right before the collect.
Right before the collect. Okay. Sorry, I need more.
From the beginning of int I to the dot in collect. Grab that and extract that.
Okay, so line 60. I apologize, I'm misunderstanding.
It's line 62 plus the first half of line 61.
Oh, okay, so this.
That, yes. That we're going to extract as an IEnumerable pipe.
Okay. And we're going to call that what?
IEnumerable pipe.
Okay. So it's just wrong, but
yeah. And actually make it IEnumerable int pipe.
Okay. So
There we go. And then that.
R-I.
Arrow.
Oh, come on.
It's tabbed is the reason it's complaining.
There we are. Okay. Semicolon. Okay.
Yep. And then you can put collector and dot collect on the same line.
Yep. Okay.
It's
So
much
next
easier.
person.
So does that express the thing properly?
Okay.
Okay, so anything else other than committing?
I feel like that's good.
So what should I?
So capital T or lowercase t because this only affects the test, therefore impossible to break production code. Super safe and more expressive test. Commit, push. The blue button in the middle is the push. All right, this has been fantastic.
Yes.
We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Have a good one. Thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you.